Good evening, everybody. This is Josh Beiser from GameWisdom.com, and for this video, we have a special presentation. We're going to be playing some Action Henk from RageSquid, and joining me from the studio is designer Roll Ezerdam.
Hello there.
Hi, Roll. How are you doing?
Pretty good. It's been quite a hectic time lately, but it's sort of slowing down a bit now. We got a bit of space of mind, so I'm doing pretty okay.
Yep. By the time this video, if you're watching this recorded, Action Henk has officially came out of early access. I believe it's been out for at least a week or two, at least from when we're streaming this. Is that right, Roll?
Yeah. It's been as of right now, it's been out for a week. So it's been out since May 11th. So yeah, it's been a while already, actually.
Yeah. And before we get started, definitely congratulations for you and the rest of the team at RageSquid for finally finishing Action Henk.
Thanks.
Alright, so for this video, we're going to run through what Action Henk is, while talking a little bit more about the design and theory of the game. So, the first question then for you, Roll, while I'm getting everything started, is who is this lovely little guy that's on the screen right now?
So the guy you're seeing right now is Action Henk, and Action Henk used to be a really cool action figure, as you can see in the background actually on the television. This is what he used to be, like back in the 80s and 90s. He used to be this really cool, tough action figure, action hero, and now he kind of let himself go a bit, and he kind of wants to prove to the world that he still got what it takes. So he's basically like, the whole point of the game is to you have to run through these levels as fast as you can to sort of prove that he still has the speed that he used to have.
Mm-hmm. And there's other characters in the game which you can choose different characters and costumes, as you can see. Reindeer, Hank, Santa. And then you have these other toys. And what was the design philosophy or the artist that you guys were going for with these other toy characters?
So I think the main idea was we sort of, when you think of action figures, you tend to think of this sort of very generic, sort of badass figure, and not so much. Like if you look at these, for example, like G.I. Joes and that kind of stuff, they're very generic. They don't have much character per se, because they're just sort of like perfect. That's the idea. But what we wanted to have is that we wanted every character to be a very specific character, and to sort of really have sort of their own flaws and their own history, rather than just making this generic, like, perfect action figure.
Cool. Alright, so we're going to get into the game now. I figure we'll definitely run through at least the basic tutorial, or the first world first, so that'll be a good primer for people not used to the game. But we'll also go through some of these other levels as well. While we're looking at the main screen, Roll, for people who haven't heard of Action Henk yet, we sort of went over the story, but what is the basic gameplay of the title for people who aren't familiar with the game about?
So I think the best way to describe it would be like sort of a speedrunning platformer game. It's very similar to games like, for example, Trials or Trackmania. It's sort of a racing game, but it's a platformer. So you just have these short levels of about 20-30 seconds, and you just have to finish them as fast as possible. And because everything in the game is physics-based, there's a lot of sort of subtle tricks you can do to increase your speed and to sort of make things go faster. So that's a big thing. A big point of the game is really just like playing over and over again and learning all these like subtle tricks to sort of become faster at every level and shave off these seconds.
And part of shaving off those seconds, it has to go into the progression model. For those of you watching this, you can see the medals on the right-hand side, where it shows right now bronze, silver, and gold. What we're going to talk about in the next few minutes is how the game challenges you to compete and get higher up using the ghost system. Now, if you look at the top of the screen where it says score specific seconds for rainbow medal, that is the 4th medal. I think that is the hardest one that you guys have in the game now. Is that right?
Yeah. That's sort of like gold. Basically means you did good and that you sort of did the whole level in sort of like one go and that you did it properly. But if you really want the challenge, then you should, yeah, you can go for the rainbow medal, which is basically like if you want to perfect it. And the rainbow medal is really, you know, if you want to take it a step further.
Alright. We'll watch the cutscene then a little bit. This will sort of go through what Roll was talking about a few minutes ago. Oop. While the cutscene's playing out, Roll, one thing that I do like about the aesthetic of Action Henk is just how they scale this world and just designing like these little figures in this whole big living room, or I'm sorry, bedroom in the background. Did you guys have to go through like several iterations on deciding how you want this game to look, or did you sort of nail it on your first try?
Well, I guess iteration is always a big part of, well, I guess everything in game design, but the whole like the toy aesthetic has been there from the very beginning. But if you look at the sort of visual progression of the whole sort of kids room throughout the whole game, you can definitely see that there's sort of an iterative process going on. And mainly you can see that over time we're adding more and more and more stuff to the background, but also things like sort of the color of the walls, like the color of the wallpaper and all these things. You can see that there's definitely some iteration in that.
Alright, so what we'll do is we're going to start on bronze. So this is like the absolute basic ghost. This will just let us quickly, as well as to talk about the gameplay pretty easily while I run through this, hopefully. Alright, so you can see the ghost on the left hand side. Controls are pretty simple. You have jump, move, and you can also slide. Now, Roll was talking about a few minutes ago, these little tricks you can use to shave off time. So while I'm running through this, Roll, why don't you talk a little bit more about that for people watching?
So yeah, there's like I said, everything is physics based. It's physics based in the game. So because of that, there's all these little things that have influence on your speed, and because the speed is not a set value but just a combination of all kinds of things you can do. So for example, when you do the sliding works really well downhill because you have low friction, but you have no sort of acceleration because you're not walking. But if you're on a slope, then the gravity will pull you down, and that's actually better than running down the slope. So there's all these sort of, this is the most basic rule within the game, but there are a lot of these little sort of tricks that you can learn, and it's funny because it can really be like, it can be quite a hard challenge sometimes. And then if you find out one of these tricks, which we try to sort of subtly introduce to all the players in the game, if you find out about them, it can be that all of a sudden you can like finish a medal or you know get to a new spot that you weren't able to get to before. So the idea is really about sort of getting the players to start with everything they can, like from the very beginning. So right now you have all the skills that you have throughout the entire game. So it's really about getting better at the game and not the game sort of becoming easier, you know, like increasing stats or that kind of thing. It's really about sort of mastering the controls.
Yeah. Now, if you were just watching, I just got my ass kicked by the rainbow ghost. Oop, let me get back here. There we go. I'll show that again. Now, rainbow is obviously the hardest variant of these types of ghosts. And when I spoke with you last time, Roll, on the podcast, you talked a little bit about designing the various ghost challenges. Could you talk a little bit more about that while we're showing the footage of how you basically decide what would be the bronze run or what would be the gold run variant of the ghosts?
Yeah, so the ghosts the ghosts are just sort of like pre-recorded runs. So basically most of the ghosts that you play against will basically be me playing it or one of the other developers sort of playing through the levels. And so it's just you have to play the level, and then you can, in the end, you can sort of save the ghosts to be a certain, like save it as a bronze, a silver, a gold, or rainbow. So, and then the idea is that if I want to record a bronze ghost, obviously it needs to be sort of not too hard to beat. So when I'm recording the bronze ghost, I deliberately make these mistakes in order to have sort of a fair, like bronze time. So after a while, you get a certain sort of idea of, okay, so a bronze player should sort of know these tricks and react to these challenges in this way. And same goes for the silver and the gold and the rainbow. And it's funny how hard it can actually be sometimes to do a bronze run, because you just want to have sort of you need to sort of constantly make mistakes, but you still need to make the level kind of in one go. So it can be sometimes it can be quite challenging actually to record them.
Yeah, as you're watching, part of the challenge is knowing just how to alter your momentum. As you can see, sliding is key. You also have to know just when you want to jump, when you want to avoid inclines, as you can just see. Now, how was it making the rainbow variants of these ghosts, by the way? Because rainbow's probably you guys just not holding anything back. Was that easier than making the bronze, or was it harder?
I guess in some cases it was, in some cases it wasn't. It's funny that you talk about the rainbow medals, because I'm actually joined right now by Rosie, who is one of the other developers of the game, and he has been helping out, like recording some of the rainbow ghosts as well, because he's insanely good at the game. So basically it has been sort of like we have been working together and sort of recording the ghosts. And for the rainbow medal, obviously you need to have a very good run. However, it still needs to be beatable by players. So because we had some players already in early access, we could get some sort of indication as to how good players would become. And we had this idea of having about like sort of a 5 to 3% completion rate for the rainbow medals. So sometimes it's not even a matter of sort of letting it all out, but even like trying to hold in just a bit, because it shouldn't be like a top 10 score. It should more be like a top 100 score. Because you don't want a rainbow medal that nobody can finish. So even that sometimes was tricky. But also if you go to the later levels, especially sort of the bonus area at the end of the game, which you get after unlocking the whole storyline, that's when it becomes really hard. And then the rainbow medal was basically like, okay, you just do the level without resetting. That's good enough for a rainbow medal. And then if you go to the very last level, it was really like we were like he and Rosie, we were like sort of working together, and we were playing the level all the time, and it took him like half an hour to sort of actually do the level without any mistakes. And that's when we're like, oh, finally we have all the rainbow medals. So towards the end it got pretty crazy, but overall I guess it was also quite fun actually to record them.
Now, one question I have for you, Earl. In terms of playing Action Hang, is it better to play with the keyboard and mouse or the gamepad, or does it not even make a difference?
Me personally, I prefer the keyboard. What do you prefer, Ron?
I always do by the keyboard.
Okay, so we really like the keyboard, but maybe that's because also we have been developing on the computer from the very beginning. So when people pick it up, they tend to prefer the controller, but some people prefer keyboard. I guess for most people the controller is the nicest.
Man, this rainbow ghost is kicking my ass. For those of you watching this, come on, you really do need to play it almost at a perfect level to have a chance at it. Now, from what you're watching, Roll, what kind of little tips or tricks can you give players to hopefully do a lot better than I am, at least against the rainbow ghost variants?
So let's see. I guess okay. So the most important tip to note, I think you already know about that. I see you already know that, is that you should not slide upwards, or at least in most of the cases you should never slide when you're going upwards, unless you're going very fast. Then I don't know, some other tricks. Sliding through a loop usually works better. Like a lot of these tips that I'm telling right now, they also appear in the loading screens. So throughout the game, you also like get these subtle hints at how to do certain things. So when you go through a loop or like a half loop, like so, the one you're gonna approach, like right now, you have to sort of slide through it.
Okay.
That always works faster than running through a loop. Um, then also timing your jump height, or timing if you even need to jump at all, is also can also be a very important factor, because for some jumps you want sort of the full press, which makes you jump a bit higher, and for other jumps you just want to do a little tap, so you get that. The very beginning of the level, actually, where you're right now, if you can land on the angled surface and then jump off of the angled surface, that gives you a bit of speed boost as well. So, and I guess, I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, so I'll leave it at this. But I mean, this is just a handful of tricks that you can do, but there's many more, and there's sort of like, once you sit down and you sort of get to know the physics, which I mean I made the physics, so I should know that. But once you really like sit down and start thinking about why certain things happen, or why certain things are faster, then you can really see that it's all sort of it's a very logical reason why certain things are faster than others.
Yeah.
So you think of it, you know, if you think about it from a physics-based sort of perspective, it's actually very logical, everything. But it's hard to sit down and actually, you know, think about what's going on, because the game is just about, you know, just like running and jumping and not thinking about what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but once you do that, you can actually you can shave off a lot of time if you actually. Also, if you look at the ghosts, if you race against the rainbow medal, you get a lot of subtle tricks, because you see at least how to do it, and the medal shows you, you know, where to jump and where to slide. So if you pay attention to the ghosts, you can definitely shave off some time as well.
Now, one thing that I'm having a little bit of trouble with is doing like the very short hops. So you can see the rainbow ghost doing like those little quick hops before it gets to like a ramp or a slide. And I just can't seem to like get it down. Is it just like a very super quick tap of the up arrow, or am I missing something very simple?
Well, it depends. You can use the up arrow or the space bar to jump. I prefer the space bar, but some people prefer the up arrow. But really, like, the angle of the surface that you're standing on also has big influence on the direction you're going to jump. So there's a big difference if you jump from a flat ground or jump from a bit of an angled piece. So, but these things only become sort of critical once you start going for the rainbow medal. If you want to go for, you know, like the top percent, basically, players, then you have to really start mastering all these subtle tricks. So it's sort of, one part is like strategy and knowledge of all the tricks in the game, and I think you can get pretty far just by sort of knowing all the tricks. But then obviously, if you really want to do the rainbow medals, there's also a certain like determination that comes to it as well. So it's just about, you know, just trying over and over and over and over, and I mean, that's part of the game. I mean, that's why reset instantly. So
yeah, you
so
definitely need that, especially when you're going for a lot of the harder stuff.
Yeah, that's crucial, that you can just instantly restart. Also, because we don't want players to feel like it's sort of a penalty to restart. We want them to feel like it's part of the game. So there's no, I mean, that's what the game is about, like restarting over and over and slowly getting better at the thing, and then slowly nailing it, and then, yeah, see, there you go. You can see that you you've been trying for a couple of times now, and every time you get a bit better, and you see, too bad, I jinxed it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, bro.
So you see, for example, the speed boost that you just like came across a couple of times. It's like, oh, first you find out, oh wait, there's a speed boost, and then you jump a bit earlier, and then you jump a bit earlier, and you slowly adjust, and then you slowly sort of, you know, get better and better, and that's when you that's how you sort of nail these levels, and that's what the fun of the game is about, like slowly, like really realizing that you're slowly getting better.
And really, it's just about practice and figuring out where you are in relation to your movement, because you really just need to, as you said, just get that practice and the timing down on how long do I slide for. Do I do a small jump or a short jump here? And as you can see, it just takes a lot of practice, and that's one of the things I do like about the game. Oh, I jumped too high there. Now, in terms of setting up like the overall like level designs and the obstacles, levels, how did you guys approach how much you wanted to challenge the player in terms of the levels versus just figuring out the mechanics themselves?
So first of all, as you can see, the levels are built up of very simple blocks. It's just a handful of shapes, and basically the entire game is built out of these objects. So I believe it's like 15 blocks or something, or like 12 or 15 blocks. So it's just a bunch of blocks, like a bunch of wooden blocks and like the curvy ones, and that's sort of what everything is built upon. And I definitely believe there's like, it's sort of a design philosophy, this whole like trying to create as much as you can with a very small set of options. And I think you can be most creative and come up with the best level designs if you don't have a million different options to choose from. I guess, I mean, you still have the speed boost, you have the bounce pad, and then later on in the game you also have the grappling hook. So there's definitely a couple of things to sort of, mix things up. But in the end it's all very simple, and we want it also to be that simple. We want the player to sort of understand the game in the first, level, in the first minute, and then we want the first levels, sort of the levels you're playing now, they are, anyone should be able to complete them. So there aren't many hazards, there aren't many like hard parts. It's all very, easy to get into. And then later on in the game, we're like, okay, so you're getting further. Okay, this means we're going to challenge you a bit. And then, the further you get into the game, the more that we try to challenge the players, and the more, especially like I said, this bonus area in the end, it's sort of like, it's sort of like, okay, so you're really up for a challenge? Well, sure, we'll give you a challenge. And I mean, it works really well because the players themselves can decide how much they want to be challenged by, choosing whether they want to go for the bronze or the silver or the gold or even the rainbow medal. So it's up to the players to decide how much challenge they prefer. And then as you go further, if someone's not really up for this difficulty, then eventually they will be like, oh yeah, okay, I think I've had enough. Whereas other players who are really up for, like a tough challenge, they can just keep on going and going. And, the sort of the hardcore players, you don't want them to feel underwhelmed as well. You don't want them to be like, in the end, like, oh, that's it. Oh, too bad. That wasn't really hard. So we want this sort of player set to be as broad as possible in terms of like, a kid can enjoy this and just run around and just mess around, but like a super hardcore speedrunning type person can easily put, hundreds of hours in there and like literally hundreds of hours in there and still get better at the game and still figure out new paths and new ways to play the game.
Now, what I just showed was one of the, I guess, special events that unlocks the Swan Henk costume. Now, these special events are different from the traditional play. How did you guys come up with these types of events where you're chasing these coins as opposed to a straight-up runner/platformer?
So I guess the idea of the bonus level was, we felt like it would be nice just to have, a bonus level. I don't know, the idea of a bonus level is just a lot of fun. And we want to change things around a bit. So we thought, how can we sort of completely change the dynamic of the game without having to do something completely different with the physics or with pickups or anything. So, and that's how we came up with this sort of coin idea, because it's basically, I mean, the physics are exactly the same, but the path of the level is not as clear. So you really need to sort of figure out what the best path is. And we sort of, for the bonus level specifically, we disable the ability to watch other people's ghosts. So it's really some sort of secret. It's like, okay, who can figure out the best paths? And so it's very different, because in the other levels it's more of like a democratic thing. Whereas, if you find out a super cool trick, the others can watch that trick and replicate it. But in the bonus levels, it's more about, figuring out the best sort of possible routes, and nobody can see it, so nobody knows the best way. So everybody has these ideas about, maybe I should do it like this or maybe like that. Oh, I see Quartzoy has joined the chat. I think Quetzal is the #1 action player of all time. I don't know if you, like, when I said several hundred hours earlier on, that was sort of the person I was talking about.
Oh, I bet he's enjoying me flailing around then, doing the... I finally got the gold medal for this level. This one took me a little bit to get to. And one thing I do like, as you said, is that the level design, it's very basic in terms of the objects. You're not going too insane, but it's just what you're expecting out of the player and what you're demanding in terms of skill that really grows and improves over time. So you can see just that first level in what I guess was considered Section 2 was a hell of a lot more complicated than the other ones.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, I mean, just you wait until you get to the later stages of the game. Have you already seen the outdoor area?
I have not. I did see the grappling hook, which we will show later on.
All right.
Oh, damn those loops! I guess there's a little fun little trick right there, where you were actually having to jump to avoid the ramps, because as you said, the physics will slow you down whenever you're going up an incline.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, yeah, this is again one of those like subtle things, and you learn it. You learn it super fast. Like you run into it, and then you bash into the other one, and then you're like, oh wait, I shouldn't run into this because I'm losing all my speed. And I mean, there's all these things, and especially earlier on in the game, we try to make you experience these things sort of automatically. Mm-hmm. So, for example, like one of the earlier, like the first challenge level, like where you play against Betsy, mm-hmm. in the first thing you encounter is these blocks, like these angle blocks, and everyone will run into them the first time, and then they will see like, wait, oh, I see that my opponent is actually jumping over them, and that's how you sort of like learn these things, and especially earlier on in the levels, like the first part of the levels we use to introduce the player to new mechanics, because if you fail early on in the level, it doesn't matter because you can just reset and you're back at the start. Mm-hmm. So it feels kind of like you're cheated upon if you're very late in the level and suddenly a new thing or a new mechanic appears and you're gonna fail. Like the first time you're always gonna fail. Mm-hmm. So when we have some sort of new thing or a new mechanic or a new trick, we try that we try to do that early on in the level, so people don't mind failing.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing you said a few minutes ago regarding balancing the game for multiple skill levels, how did you guys approach that in terms of, I guess, just the understanding of these physics and being able to probably show the player what's going on, what they should be doing differently, and not screwing up like I'm doing, trying to hit that top ramp? There we go.
Yeah, so I know, like, it's tricky because in the end, it's really just like, we have no clue either. I mean, in the end, you just try and then you hope that it's sort of, I mean, we playtest with a lot of people, like, looking at their reaction. I've done a lot of playtesting in early access. A lot of people have been playing the game, so we've been getting a lot of data in terms of completion rates, mm-hmm. and those kinds of things. So we've been looking, you can definitely spot certain, so if a certain level is very hard or a certain medal is very hard, we can definitely spot that because we keep track of all the sort of completion rates of all the medals and all the levels. So we've been doing some tweaking here and there, but overall it's really just like, I mean, you just try and then you hope that it sort of makes sense, and I mean, every player is different, so in the end you just sort of try and hope for the best, I guess.
Here's all I haven't done yet. Now, one thing that I want to talk about briefly is how the game changed between early access to retail. Now, as you guys were altering the game and balancing it, were there any noticeable differences between how the game was during the early access phase to when it was officially released about a week ago, at least when we did this live stream?
So I think in terms of the physics, not much has changed actually since basically the second month of the project. It's really like we try to nail down the physics very early on the whole sort of core of the game. Also because that's sort of what the whole game is built upon. So because all the levels are built upon these physics, you cannot really sort of change them around. It's like you will break everything. So, so we sort of nailed down on the whole physics within the first month or two. And since that time, not much has changed actually on sort of the whole core mechanic of the game. However, I think for us, early access was more about adding more content and adding more areas and more features to the game, not so much about sort of polishing the game. We specifically said about early access because a lot of games get sort of a bad reputation because they are very broken and like people get a lot of problems with them. So so we said like, okay, if we're gonna do early access, we gotta make sure that the game is a solid product and which we can just expand upon rather than having this sort of broken product that we still need to fix first. And that worked really well. Like people were really enjoying the game from the very first day we released on early access. However, people were in the very beginning, people were saying like, okay, it doesn't have much content yet. I think we launched with about 17 levels or something, so that wasn't that much considering the fact that there's now 70 levels in the game. So and we had less than 20 when we just launched early access. But within the first 2 weeks, we amped up the levels to to be about 30 levels, and then added more levels. Then we added the rainbow ghosts, and then so within the first month of early access, we really felt comfortable with the whole product already. And from that moment on, it was just about just adding more content to the game, adding more features to the game. So that's the reason why, in the end, we added a level editor, we added online multiplayer, we added a whole bunch of levels, also in completely different environments. I guess you might want to check out a couple of the other environments. I guess that would be fun to show as well. So I mean, you probably know some of the indoor environments. We got like the disco area, we got the Halloween area, all those things, and then. But then there's also this whole outside area now, which we sort of saved up for the final launch, which is like you go into the beach, onto the jungle, and then like everything becomes lava, and so we have a whole bunch of different environments to explore. Which I mean, it's just an aesthetic thing, but it definitely feels really different in terms of the whole environment.
Yeah. Now one thing I was trying to do was that rainbow trick ghost of actually hitting the loop there and just doing it in one run, so having to sort of jump up and then slide back down again. And that's definitely one of the more advanced mechanics. Now in terms of like really showing the player how to do all this, were you guys worried at all about not having like a quote-unquote real tutorial in terms of teaching the player some of these more advanced mechanics and these little advanced tactics they can use?
Yeah, absolutely. That has been one of the trickiest things actually from the very beginning, to teach the player all these mechanics without spoiling it to them, or without like actually having to pause the game and having them read text, because nobody's gonna read text. So we came up with a couple of things, and in the end it's still really up to the players. Some players just don't see it and they keep on screwing up over and over in the same way. And I mean, in the end, you can't have everything, right? You cannot have everyone understand your game completely. That's just how it's gonna go. But so first of all, there's, like I said, a lot of subtle things in the level which sort of force you to oh, you got an achievement.
Yay.
Which sort of force you to make a mistake, so you learn how to do it properly. Like, so they're like, you're forced to use this trick, but without you even noticing you're doing it. Then of course the ghosts are very important, because the ghosts will teach you a lot of subtle things. If you watch the ghosts, if you play against ghosts, you will get better at a much higher rate, because you see all the little tricks right in front of you. I guess we have a couple of these load screen tips as well. I mean, they're very subtle. They don't I mean, again, we don't expect people to read, so you might pick up a little thing here and there. And then sometimes, I mean, if you're really up for the challenge, there's been a lot of people as well who do YouTube videos. For example, Court Zoe, who is now in the chat, he's been doing a lot of sort of like in-depth analysis of a lot of tracks. So if you're really like, okay, I want to absolutely nail this track, or if you want to do a rainbow medal and you don't really know where to start, you can, watch one of his videos, and he will go like jump by jump. He will explain you how to do it, like in the best way, or at least the best way he thinks you can do it. So and that helps out as well. I mean, I think it's definitely become a part of sort of games as well, the whole online community. If you look at, I mean, games like, for example, Minecraft, to name one, it's really hard to get into one of those games without having a Wikipedia page open to explain you certain things. So looking things up online, if you really want to nail something, or if you really want to do something, it's become sort of a more regular part of games. So and it's no difference here. You can see on the forums as well, some people like, hey, how do I take care of this, or how do I get the rainbow medal on this level, and then people try to help each other out. So that's part of it as well.
Now, one thing that we've been showing, or I've been showing for the last few minutes, is the hook mechanic. And this is one of the more direct mechanics other than jumping and sliding. How did you guys approach designing the hook and what you wanted out of it compared to the other mechanics in Action Hank?
Let's see. It's been a while, so I have to think a bit. I think the main difference between the hook and regular platforming is that the hook it's actually much harder to control, because you go so fast, and every frame in difference that you release, the hook has a big impact on where you're going. So and we wanted it to actually work together with the rest of the game mechanics. So we wanted the grappling hook to work within the sort of on top of the regular platforming mechanics. So we didn't want a pickup that completely makes the rest of the platforming sort of unnecessary. So as you can see, I mean, in the hook levels, there's a lot of parts where you have to hook to continue. But then there's also again a part where you do regular jumping and sliding and all those things. So we definitely want to combine the regular physics with the grappling hook, and not for it to be just sort of a different thing. Oh yeah, see, even Quartzoy says that handling the hook is very hard. So yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, because the hook is so different from the regular mechanics, that some people really love it and other people like really hate it, because some people just have so much trouble controlling it, whereas others just do it sort of naturally, and they go like, no, the hook levels are my favorite. So it's funny, and the same actually goes for the bonus levels, the one you showed earlier with the coins, because there's no set path to take. Some people, like, they really hate it. They're like, I just want to be, I just want to know what I have to do, and I just want to, time the jumps correctly in order to get the, to beat the target, and I don't want to have to think about what kind of path I have to take. Whereas other people are like, oh, it's so cool because I can, think of my own way how to do the level, and I don't need to follow the set out path. So with every sort of mix up that we do of game mechanics, you can really see that one part of the players really likes it and another player doesn't like it. And I guess you're always gonna have that. So.
Now it's interesting how you really do get a lot of mileage out of just this basic mechanic of the physics and moving and jumping. Like, there's not a lot in terms of complicated controls, but as you said, Roll, there's all these different ways you can play the game, whether it's the free-form levels, these platform levels, even just using the hook, like what I've been flailing around with. Oh, no.
Too bad. Yeah, it's, well, yeah, I said earlier that we really about, like having trying to get as much depth out of a very simple set of features. So that philosophy definitely is sort of, you can see it throughout the whole game that we, it's very simple mechanics, but we want you to be able to come up with new tricks and things all the time.
With the hook shot, for me, I definitely like it. It really does add a lot more options, I think, to the player. But as you can see, it definitely requires a lot of practice in terms of getting your momentum right, when you want to hold it, when you don't want to hold it, stuff like that. Now, did this actually like take practice, or I'm sorry, did it take a lot of implementations to get the hook shot right, or did you guys get pretty much what you wanted very early into the game?
Well, the hook shot was actually like a nightmare to get to feel right. There, we have done a lot of iterations on just the way it works, the way the physics work. Also, for example, the fact that when you bump into a wall, you sort of let go automatically. There's all these things, and that was just like a big part of iteration, because the hook was in there for a long time. I get even like the very early versions of the hook, you could change the length yourself, so it was more like a ninja rope from Worms, which had this trick of like when you make it shorter while you go through it, you can gain a lot of speed. But then again, that was too hard to explain to players. So, and then if players didn't know it, it was impossible for them to complete the levels. But if they did know it, it was like way too easy. So it was actually, like I said, it was a nightmare to sort of get the hook to feel right, because it was in there for several months throughout the early development, and we were just like, man, it just doesn't feel right. It's just so bothersome. It just doesn't work. And but eventually we got to a point where we're like, yeah, okay, so we think it's actually good now. It's actually finally a nice, addition to the game rather than sort of a step down.
Oh, I can see what he has to do, but one of the challenging games is just figuring out how he's actually doing these little maneuvers. Again, it's really about watching the ghost and then figuring out how to replicate it. You can see I got a little bit further that time, but now I have to... I'm holding too much. Yeah.
Oh, that's so close.
I mean, it's definitely a challenging game, and it's one of the things I do like about it is that, as you said, it is about figuring out, well, just exactly how to get through it. So it definitely has puzzle aspects to it, despite the very action and momentum-based gameplay.
Yeah, there's definitely a part where you sort of have to figure out how to do certain things. There's also a couple of later levels where we really try to sort of mess around with certain mechanics, or do like certain sort of like cheesy little things that you have never seen before. And for some people, it's really like they have to sit down like, okay, how do I do this? And then you really have to think about how the physics works and how to sort of complete this little tricky jump. So just to answer the question of Kortzoy in the chat, he says, is this the same reason why the hook only targets upwards? Targeting the hook was also one of the problems that we continue to see. Oh, congratulations!
Yes.
That's the gold medal. But targeting, like the direction of the targeting for the hook was also one of the points what we've been iterating upon a lot. And so first of all, because we wanted the game to be simply playable with just the arrow keys, or just the controller, we said like, okay, so we cannot do any targeting like mechanic. We cannot have the player aim or anything, because it's not a game that you control with the mouse. You just have to use the arrow keys. So that's when we had to do like the sort of shooting left or right. But then it's like, how do you base the direction of where you aim? And that definitely had some iteration as well, and basically now it's sort of just, earlier on we had this thing also based upon your speed, based upon your height and all these things, but in the end it just worked the simplest way, which is just, it's either like, upwards left or upwards right, and that just makes it, because the hook is already a pretty hard thing to control by itself, having more variable things or more things that are changing around based on speed and everything, it just makes it more complicated, and that just didn't work out.
Ooh. Those loop-de-loops are definitely a killer.
Yeah.
Oh no. And as you can see, just the level design has definitely gotten a lot more challenging, even beyond the hooks, just in terms of their length and how much you want the player to do in it. Now, you said at the beginning of the cast roll that in terms of like the length of the levels, you're aiming for like 20 seconds or so. Was it difficult, I guess, narrowing down the levels or making them longer to support a specific design?
I think that sort of went intuitively, because I didn't necessarily say in the beginning, oh, I want them to be 20, 30 seconds. It's just we sort of tried out what worked well, and you can just sort of feel, because because of the very sort of perfectionist nature of the game, where you constantly try and try and try, and you try to do the perfect run, if it becomes longer than 30 seconds, like 40 or 50 seconds, it already becomes super hard to, to do it. There's actually one level in the game where it's basically a minute long, and it's, it's it's basically one of the hardest levels of the game. So once you make the levels longer, it sort of exponentially becomes harder to nail down. So so it really felt like eventually we came up with this sort of 20 to 30 second sweet spot of what feels nice, what feels like a reasonable length, where you feel like, hey, I don't mind having to try this over and over again until I perfect it. Because if you make it too long, people just get too frustrated, and they're just like, yeah, well, I've been trying so much now. So so that hasn't, like, that was just a matter of just trying and seeing what felt right.
Yeah. And as you can see, this is the challenge level to unlock the new costume. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about getting the design around the freeform levels. Now, about these specific character challenges, how did you guys approach these types of levels in terms of testing the player?
So it's quite funny, actually. There's a couple of things that we do in the challenge levels. Like, we do some very specific things that we don't do in other levels. So first of all the other levels have a very like a varying difficulty. So you can do not so well, or you can do very good, and there's like 4 different medals. Whereas the challenge only has 1 opponent to clear. So there's not much point to having a lot of variety in speed. And so you see that, for example, the curved tracks, they create a lot of different possibilities in terms of speed and how well you can do. So that's why you don't see many curved tracks in the challenge levels. I think this level doesn't even have a single curved track, and the reason for that is because there's just no point. Challenge levels are more levels like you either complete it or you don't, and that's it. And you can really see it back in the design, because usually all the level design is built in a way like you can do it in a good way, or in a like a bit faster or a bit slower way. Whereas the challenge levels are more like, okay, if you fail, you have to restart. If you fail, so you see a lot of like hard sort of walls where you can just bump into and completely like lose instantly. That's really part of the challenge, and the same goes for the way the levels are built. Because normally the levels are built sort of like they go left, so you can see what's coming, or usually they go left. Whereas the challenge levels usually go right, so you can't really see what's coming. It's really part of like having this level that you need to sort of, you get a bit better every time. So I see now you're starting the outside area. So this is one of the things that we saved up for the final launch. And as you might see, it's a very different environment.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as we talked about, in terms of growing, I guess, the difficulty and enhancing the complexity, what was the difference in terms of design philosophy when you were going from these older levels, or the first levels, to when we're getting to these outdoor environments and you're getting to a lot of the longer, more difficult levels?
Yeah, it's really hard. I think the hardest thing about it is that it's not really it's like sort of a smooth, it has to be a smooth curve. So it's really hard to do on a like level by level basis, decide how hard you're going to make it. So that's why, inevitably you're going to have these sort of bumps in the difficulty. Like there's no way around it. But because we had a lot of harder levels earlier on in the game, like earlier on in development already, so we started filling up the gaps in between, rather than just doing the campaign from start to finish. You should fall in the water. It's worth trying that.
Oh, let's see.
So so it's, again, this has been a process of just trying out things and seeing how people react. Just if you watch people play the levels, you can learn a lot about whether you're asking too much of them or whether the level is too easy. And the nice thing though is because of all these tricks that the game is built upon, all these subtle tricks, you can really, throughout the sort of difficulty progression, decide like, okay, from this moment on, I want the player to be able to do this kind of trick, or at least, if you want to do a gold medal, you have to be able to do this trick.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you sort of slowly start requiring more and more tricks from the player, and because there are many tricks that all are very, varying in difficulty and sort of complexity, you can slowly add more and more tricks to these required bundle of skills, and so that has been sort of a nice way to smoothly increase the difficulty of the levels. But again, like I said earlier, it's just we're just humans and we just try stuff and see if it works, and then we hope in the end that it sort of works out well.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you did not want to have any tutorials. You wanted to avoid reading and teaching the player that way. Has there been like any temptation to have like little tutorial levels or like a advanced guide to the game during the play?
I mean, it's always tempting, right? Because you always feel like you want to explain everything to the player, but I think the coolest thing, actually, I mean, I'm actually really proud of the fact that there's sort of 2 actual tutorials in the game, but they're not blocking whatsoever. So in the first level, it tells you how to slide, but with the plane that flies by, and then in the first hook level, it tells you how to use the hook, and that is all that it's told. And for example, first we used to have a tutorial that told you how to jump, like in the first level when you had hit the first block, it's like press A to jump, and it's like, why is it even there? Like, if someone is gonna play this game, if you're playing a platformer and you run into a block and you can't get any further, like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna think, okay, how do I jump? Like, and if you're on a controller or a keyboard, like, you press 1 or 2 buttons and you're gonna know how to jump. So it just feels way better because people play it and then they're like, oh wait, what do I do? And then they press a button, they're like, oh yeah, I jump. And then it's like, instead of you telling them, they found it out themselves. So it's so much more valuable if people can find out the tricks themselves, but it's always tempting because you don't want people to get stuck. You don't want them to be like, oh, how do I do this? I don't know, it's so frustrating. So it's definitely tempting, but the great thing is that we don't really have a chance because the game is so fast that it's almost impossible to have some sort of sign somewhere, which is also why the tutorials are sort of in a plain format. But you cannot really get more than a second of attention from a player who's actually running through the game. So you just you can't really do the tutorial. So I guess the best tutorial would be just the medals and the fact that we use the medals to show certain tricks to the players, and that's, I guess, the best tutorial there is. And we try to do a bit in the loading screen, as you might have noticed. There's some subtle tricks, but I mean, people sometimes read it. Usually they don't. I mean, I'm guessing they don't read anything that's like, people don't tend to read stuff. So in the end, it's all about just trying and figuring out yourself.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I want to talk about while I'm going through this is just getting the wall jump mechanic down, because this is where I'm running into some troubles, just getting that momentum. What am I slipping up on? Because I'm sure a lot of novice players are probably doing the same thing that I am right now.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 things here. There's 2 things here that are important to note. So first of all, if you want to do a wall jump, the earlier you can do it, the better. So because if you still have vertical velocity, you jump way higher than when you don't have any vertical velocity anymore. So you have to. So it's definitely a good idea to jump when the sort of the quarter pipe becomes vertical, but you want to jump as early as you can. So right as it becomes vertical, you want to jump, and then this first jump, as you can see, the gold medal actually jumps on the first transfer as well. So if you look closely at the gold medal, you can see that you actually beat the gold medal. So if you look closely to the gold medal, you can see that the big half pipe, right before the big half pipe, the gold medal jumps as well, and that jump gives it just a bit more like vertical momentum, which gives you just enough speed to actually make that jump.
All right, let's see that, and then we'll move on to another level. While I'm getting back to that point, you talked about earlier designing the child's bedroom. How did you guys design like the art set for now that we're in the outdoor environment?
All right. So the idea is basically while we were doing the indoor environment, we were already also noticing that, it's very cramped. Like we have to curve all the levels to even fit within the kids' room. So it also, like, from a level design perspective, it was great to have some sort of environment where we just go all out in terms of level size. And yeah, I think you can have it now. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. See. So see, it was just a subtle difference. Like you just had this extra jump earlier on. But it's really a matter of like sitting down and watching what the ghost does and watching what you can do differently. So about the outdoor area is just we just want to have this completely different, like, fast space, and it's also, I mean, it's also just nice to really mix things around. And the sort of the early idea of the outside area had to do with sort of the storyline progression, and in the end there's not much of the story left over, but it's sort of about, like, this evil, like, the bad guy who sort of blows up the entire kids room, like the entire indoor area, so that's why you sort of end up outdoors on the beach. So that's sort of the story behind it. And also like our sort of, and our environment artist, he's really into sort of doing foliage and sort of like trees and all that kind of stuff and nature. So having to do an outdoor environment was a really great challenge and also just a lot of fun for him to do. So that's why, sort of like, so of our two main artists, one of them focused mainly on the indoor area, whereas the other focused on the outdoor area. So they could both sort of do what they were best at.
Oh, come on. Yep. You can see we're just getting really to the complicated stuff here. Oh!
Yeah, now it's slowly getting harder and harder.
And again, I really do like how the rest of your team and everyone RageSquid just took the very basic mechanic, really, that it hasn't changed at all, but you've just made it so much more complicated in terms of what you're expecting out of the player, and really growing what the game is about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, that was definitely the plan. So I mean, it's really cool if you feel like it's that way, yeah.
Oh, come on, there we go. Well, a little bit better. Let's see, we can actually nail this loop-de-loop of death. Oh.
Yeah, I think you can get the gold medal.
No.
Gold medal. Okay, so now you start noticing that getting the gold medal becomes trickier and trickier, and I guess that's the way it's supposed to go, because some people prefer to just sort of play through the game, whereas others, you can really see there's really different kinds of people. Like some people, they're like, I got the bronze medal, I got a medal, nice, let's continue. And other people are just like, well, I didn't get the gold medal, so that doesn't count. Like, I need to get the gold medal first, or else why am I even, But it's really funny to see the different sort of kinds of players that play the game.
Oh, I got. Oh man, yeah. So I mean, you could sit here all day and go after all the various different challenges. Let's see. Let's go to the. Let's see. What are we up to in terms of recording? We're at 58 minutes, so we'll play through, I guess, these final set of levels, and then we'll probably call it after that. I think we've got a good explanation of what the game is.
Yeah. It's nice that you're also able to sort of show the outdoor area. I mean, as you can see, it's definitely a lot different, and it's also you can see that it's also, in difficulty. You can see that it's definitely sort of ramping up now. Yeah, it's a shame that you can't show the very last batch of the game, but it's maybe better as well because it's very like rage-inducing. So, but you might want to try that out later if you have the time.
I think what I'm screwing up on is doing like the mini hop jumps that you need to actually, when you're trying to time it to the slides and whatnot. I think that's what I'm messing up on. We'll probably show that in a second here, like right. I just saw it. Where was it? Ooh. Like when you need right there when you were supposed to do a quick little hop to get enough enough momentum to hit that slide. That's where I'm messing up on. I wonder if it's just because I'm not used to using like very quick key presses compared to a gamepad.
I guess the funny thing is, when you see different people play, everyone has different kinds of sort of problems they run into regarding the game mechanics. So some people have a very hard time doing proper wall jumps, whereas other people have trouble doing like the short hops, and other people have trouble with the grappling hook. So it's funny, like every different aspect of the game, people have different problems with it, or different sort of difficulties that they run into. So that kind of makes it hard, because when you see one person struggle with a certain section, you feel like, oh damn, I need to make this easier because it's way too hard. And then you see someone else, and they do it one go, like they have no problem whatsoever with it. So it can be a bit confusing, like what's hard and what's not hard. So.
And that's definitely the challenge. Was again, you can see just the difference in how I actually find the grappling hook levels a lot easier, just because of the direct control.
Yeah, I guess you should wait until you get to the jungle levels, which are the level area right after the beach. You have the jungle, and those are definitely tricky grappling levels.
Boy, I just mess up the timing right there. Yeah, grappling for me definitely feels like it's a lot easier. Now, one of the issues, I guess, with trying to learn from the ghost, when he gets so far ahead of you, like right now, you just have no vision of what he's doing differently compared to what you're doing. So you're sort of left to guess, how's he super fast now?
Well, I don't want to, sound like annoying, but maybe you should just, like try an easier ghost, and then maybe you can follow him. It's funny also, Quartzo is mentioning the multiplayer, like why the multiplayer is different, because everybody has different like sort of struggles. But it's also very, again, it's the same mechanics, yet it feels very different, because the difference with multiplayer is basically the way Trackmania works as well. I don't know if you played that.
A little bit.
You have several minutes to complete a level, and the person after a couple of minutes with the best time on that level wins that round. So you have, for example, 3 or 5 minutes to just try as much as you can, but you're limited to those several minutes. So it's really about being able to set a good time on the spot, whereas the single player is more about having the sort of endurance to continue with.
So I'm going to switch to my gamepad for a quick second here. I think one of the things that's killing me is I'm a lefty, so I'm not used to using my right hand to do a lot of the motions here. Let's see, maybe we'll try a lower level just to get through this.
Alright, yeah, because I think later on in the game, if you want to go through the game in sort of like one go, then you're gonna end up sort of having to race against medals that are a bit easier, just because, the game just becomes harder over time.
Yeah.
So, but you notice if you get further in the game and then you go back to an earlier stage, that all of a sudden, like, hey, wait, actually I can beat the gold medal now, and that's one of the greatest feelings of the game, or at least what I think is one of the best feelings of the game, is just like when you go back and you realize that you got so much better at the game, even though you don't feel like you've been progressing so much. And it's like, wait a minute, all of a sudden I can just beat the gold medal.
Yeah, and it definitely reminds me of what's become a lot popular with games like Dark Souls and Demon Souls, and how it is about improving your skill as opposed to improving the game or the character. Like, Henk as a character is not evolving as we're playing. Like, I'm not getting, super enhanced speed or anything like that, but it's just in terms of the practice or what your skill level's improving that's making it easier. As you said, Roll, as you get further into the game, you're going to unlock, you're going to become better, and then when you go back to play, it's going to be like, how did I get stuck at the first world? Now that I'm able to do all this.
If you you should probably check out one of the jungle levels. It's the grappling hook stuff, so you might like that. No, so what you said is absolutely true. Like, I think for me a very big inspiration, even though it might be noticeable a bit, but it's not like super clear. Do you know the game Skate?
Yeah, that was It was like the more like technical base skateboarding game, right, from a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah, with this like a very different, very different control set than the sort of like more arcadey Tony Hawk games. So, so Skate has been a great inspiration as well. Well, of course, sort of you can sort of see the skateboarding part coming back, but that's more from my personal background in skateboarding. But the whole idea of Skate is that you start out with the entire set of features and controls and tricks from the very beginning, and it's really about you mastering the controls as a player, as opposed to, you know, just increasing your stats. And I guess in the end, that's also what skateboarding is about. You have the tools from the very beginning. It's just about how you use it and sort of personally learning to control these tools. And we have definitely tried to get that into Action Hank, where you just, you know, you start out with everything from the very beginning. And all the skins you can unlock, it's all, you know, it's all in good fun. It's a nice reward, but in the end, it's just an aesthetic thing.
Yeah.
And it's just about, you know, in the end, it's all about like pure, you know, player skill.
Yep, and you can definitely see again how much challenging this grappling hook level is compared to a lot of the earlier ones. Now, were there any levels that you guys even made that were just considered like too hard, that had to be cut or had to be edited down?
Well, I guess if you look at, I don't know, when you played the earlier version, like, I don't know if you tried the Ultimate Test.
I don't think
Which was
did.
Which was a very hard level. That level was sort of a test to see how far we could sort of pull the mechanics, like how hard we could make it, and it was very hard. It was like insanely hard, and that was the whole idea. Like that was the plan. But oh wait, are you gonna get the gold medal? Oh, that was so close.
0.02 of a second there.
Nice. So this level, we felt like this level was too hard for sort of like, you know, regular people to sort of complete. So what we did is, like Quetz was mentioning in the chat, it's sort of the city area. This is the bonus sort of area that I was talking about earlier on. So after you complete the campaign, there's a new area of levels which is called Back to the City, and this is where all the insane tracks are, and they are insanely hard. Like, they are absolutely brutal, and that's the whole point, because some people actually love these levels, but for most people they are just too hard to even get to. So we decided then, rather than having to remove them from the game completely, we just made it sort of an added feature, so people don't feel like, you know, if they don't feel like, you know, if they can complete them, that they didn't complete the game, because they still completed the storyline. So he sort of still sort of, you know, completed the game. Oh yeah, so yeah, okay. Quetzer is very good. Quetzer knows everything about this game. So there's indeed, like, there's a small adjustment we had to make to one of the insane levels, where the very first jump was so frame perfect that it was just like almost unfair. It was still doable and you could still learn it, but it was just, in comparison to all the other difficulties, it just, like, it was a very big spike early on in this level, so it just felt a bit unfair to some people. So we tweaked it in a bit of a way so that it gets a bit easier if you already know the level and if you already know the skill very well. But if you're a beginning player and you're not that good yet, I think it's still about the same difficulty, because we also, like, remove the checkpoint in the level, so it's, you have to do a bigger section in one go without being able to reset to a checkpoint. So there's, I mean, I guess there's been some subtle changes, but definitely the whole point of this city area is to have some brutal difficulty tracks. And then, you know, there's even a challenge level in the city area if you get all the levels, and that's even harder. And then if you get gold medals in the city area, there's even like a bonus, like an insane bonus area, which is, I think so far about 12 people have completed it.
Nice.
So you know, there's like a handful of people actually did it. So it's like you have almost 100 coins and you have 3 minutes to collect them. So, you know, just to give you some sense of scope of how huge that is. But if you sit down, yeah, so see, Quartzo even says shut up about the bonus track. So because that one is just crazy. It's really like if you sit down and you complete it, it's like it's a huge achievement because it's just, I mean, in the end, if you want to do it, it's like it's a lot of fun if you can complete it.
Now, one thing I do want to touch on before we wrap things up is in terms of future support, if there is any for Action Hank. Now, when I spoke with you last time on the podcast, I think you said that you were aiming to basically wrap up Action Hank, like there wasn't going to be any post support for it. Has that changed at all since our podcast?
Well, so first of all, because we just launched, obviously there's a couple of things that we ran into. So for the the upcoming weeks, we will be looking into fixing those. There's a couple of small ideas that we want to pursue, but I'm like let's not promise anything right now. So for now, there's not necessarily any plans to add anything sort of significant to the game, but there's definitely a lot of small things that we still want to fix. So for now and for the upcoming weeks or months, we will definitely be keeping an eye on the game and looking into how we can sort of make things better for the players, or fixing bugs and all those things.
Now, one thing we probably won't show, at least in this video, but I do want to see if you can mention a little bit about, is the workshop support for Action Hank. Could you talk a little bit about like the level editor and how the fan base has been taken to that?
So the level editor, I think actually the reason why we wanted to do a level editor is, well, first of all, people have been like asking for it for like crazy, like, oh, I want to have a level editor so badly, and oh, this game will be so great with a level editor. So that's how we sort of got talked into doing it, because we weren't sure if we wanted to do it because it's a lot of work. But it's been really cool to see what all the people have been making, and it really fits well within this whole idea of sort of playing with toys, right? Playing with blocks, making your own world, like making your own levels. So it works really well within the concept, and because sort of the game, the actual campaign levels, they have to sort of make sense, right? They have to be a certain quality level. They have to sort of be intuitive and those kinds of things. But there are a couple of really stupid like tricks or funny glitches or that kind of stuff, which we cannot really pursue in the campaign. But people do that when they make their own levels because there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. So it's really fun to see all the sort of just like stupid, like broken, glitchy things that people come up with, because it's just, I mean, you can do whatever you want. So that's been really cool to see, and we've had quite a big reception as well. There's been a lot of levels that have been made, and now with the final version being launched, you can also make levels in the outside areas, so you have a lot more space as well. So people can really like go crazy on that stuff. And also in the multiplayer, you can play custom levels against each other if you want. So you can even like build your own level and then challenge your friends at your own level in real time, like race against them. So everything sort of combines. You want to combine.
Now, while I'm busy flailing around this, how has the overall reception been for Action Hank since it came out of early access?
Well, so overall, it has been really positive. I think it also has to do with the way the game works. It's very, I think it's a very likable game. I mean, it's very colorful. It's happy. There's just this sort of happy-go-lucky guy that wants to prove that he's still worth it. The game is very simple to understand, so it's also playable by sort of all ages and sort of kinds of people. So I think that definitely plays with the fact that sort of generally people really like the game, but then again, it's always great to see if people enjoy it. So we have been having a lot of like YouTubers and streamers and just it's just great to see people play the game and see them struggle and to see them
see me struggle for the last 40 minutes on this.
Also seeing the sort of relief when you actually finally finish a level and all these things. So I mean, that's in the end, of course, that's sort of the whole reason why you make games, right? To just sort of see people play it and see people have a great time. So that has definitely been happening everywhere. So it's really good payoff for all the hard work.
Cool. Now, I guess to start to wrap things up, in where I'm at right now, in where I'm in the levels, how much of the game is actually like left in terms of locked right now?
So I believe you are in batch number 8 out of 10.
Ah,
So yeah, well, okay. So obviously you still didn't do all the water and the beach levels, and also not all the jungle levels. And then there's also some indoor stuff that we didn't cover, which is the disco and the Halloween area. But if you look at where you are right now in terms of difficulty as well, you're sort of nearly there. So
Okay.
the next area will be the sort of final boss area, and then once you beat that, there's the sort of city like bonus area that I talked about earlier.
And that's
So
the super challenging part.
yeah, so in terms of like content or progression, I guess you'd be about like 80% now, 70-80% throughout the campaign. However, if you look at sort of like completion rate, or like the time that it will take you, if you have to do like rainbow medals, or if you have to go back to complete gold medals, it's going to take you a lot of time, and I think the time it takes you to complete levels like ramps up exponentially, as you're noticing right now.
Yeah.
It's starting to get quite hard to even finish the levels. So it might seem early on that the game is like a pretty quick run through if you want to go from start to finish. And I mean, to be honest, if you just want to go through the campaign in one go, you can do it in like good, I think, 4 hours if you just want to rush through it, right? So, but and also depending on your personal skill, if you pick it up quickly, you can do it in like 4 hours. If you're not super expert on sort of speedrunning or platformer games, then it might take you like 5 or 6 hours. But if you want to go back to do a rainbow medal, or if you want to complete gold medals, or if you want to even start on the final, like the city batch, then you easily, like, the hours start adding up really well.
Yes, they do. Has anyone match actually like beat all like the rainbow levels yet, or I'm sorry, rainbow medals?
Well, so Quirzo, who's in the chat right now, is a very good example of someone who has beaten, well, basically anyone at the game. But there's definitely been a couple of people. I mean, the people I told about that, the people that have been sort of finishing that, like the last levels, like the very last challenge and the very last bonus levels. It's like a handful of people that have actually been like trying to get everything in the game. But they're definitely there. And then if you see that someone plays your game for 400 hours or 500 hours and somehow still manage to actually enjoy it and has a great time, then it's just like, it blows my mind, because I just don't understand. But at the same time, it's so amazing to see that someone still enjoys playing it after all this time.
I almost got the goal at that last second there in the previous run. Now, oh man, again, you can just see how much the challenging is with the grappling call. I mean, it's definitely one of those like love to hate mechanics when you're trying to get it just right. And, oh, come on. There, that's better. Come on. Oh, that's a little bit better. Oh no, I didn't hit the... And part of it is not just player skill, but again, the pattern memorization of what you're trying to accomplish. Because I completely forgot about that ramp, or the speed up there, and then that screwed up the run there. Now, you said earlier about how you want that when you got to the later levels, when you started to design things around like a minute-long levels, that felt a little too long. What was like? Was there anything that was considered too short in terms of when you were building these levels up?
Not really. There's actually a level in the water batch called Quick Tricks, and it's 10 seconds, so it's super short as well. But it's also sort of a gimmicky level. Like, okay, this level is super short. So, oh, it's funny. Like, you might want to do this. Like, as a final thing, if you can go to the main menu, you can actually connect the game to the Twitch chat, and then players, like people viewing the live stream right now, can actually spawn their ghosts. So wait, I'll let you get the gold medal first.
Sure. And there
There.
we go. Finally. Alright, let's try that feature out if we can get it to work.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it all works.
Alright.
So you can go to the options, and then the game options, and then there's a Twitch streamer settings, and now you have to enter the name of your channel. So it's like GW Weiser, and then you can hit connect, and then it connects. And now so now the bot will go to the chat of the Twitch channel, and now people can type a command to spawn a ghost. So now you can just start any level that you want.
Let's see, you're 85 mils. Oh, we're close. Let's head back. What was the? Oh, this was all you said was only like 10 seconds long.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So now Quirtzoy can actually in the Twitch chat, he can type like, you know, exclamation mark spawn ghost Quirtzoy, and then the game will look up on his like look into the leaderboards and look if he has a score on this level, and then it will spawn his ghosts, so you can race against his ghosts as well. So yeah, so see now the game says like, hey, spawning ghost Quirtzoy. So now if you hit restart, then Quirtzoy will be there as well.
Oh, there he is.
And then, like, trying to beat him will be very, very, very hard.
Yes, it will.
If you beat him, then you will basically beat everyone, like everyone on the planet, probably. So this is a fun little thing as well that we added, like, in the end, because we really enjoyed having streamers play the game, and we thought this is a fun way for streamers to be able to sort of interact with their audience. So I'll just do spawn ghosts. Not sure if my ghost is in there actually.
Oh, I think I just saw a spawn ghost appear.
So now it's basically like it's downloaded the ghost and it's sort of standing at the start line. So as soon as you restart, the ghost will run with you on the next attempt. That's basically the idea.
All right, let's see.
So now you can race against me and Quirtzoy. So so we both have been playing the game for quite a while. So
look at everyone just like all run out ahead of me. There you go.
Yeah. So and it's also been a lot of fun because you can set the maximum to about 20 ghosts. So I've also seen instances where there's just like the whole screen is filled with all these like running figures, and it's one big mess. But it's really cool to sort of challenge everyone and see how you sort of compete against all these people. Oh no, too bad.
Yeah, I think everyone just like beat me there.
I think you can get the silver medal at least. You're doing quite well.
And everyone did their little hop. Oh, did not hit that loop right.
There you go. Almost there. Oh no.
Jump when I should have kept down. Again, it's just about memorizing the levels, and that's a real important trick here. Everyone did their little jump there. I like how the gold doesn't do it because the gold wasn't programmed to do that little trick. And again, that goes back to what you were saying earlier with keeping it... I'm sorry, with deciding how much you want the ghost to actually be able to perform compared to the player at the specific difficulty levels.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, you can see from the ghosts. If you would race against all the ghosts at the same time, you can definitely see all the tricks that they're supposed to know.
Well, we gotta at least get a silver.
Yeah, it's funny to note actually that my ghost is currently beating Quirtzoy's ghost at the beginning of the level. So somehow I'm doing something really well there.
I think I'll get silver at least, hopefully. Come on.
Yeah, almost there.
Oh,
There
I
you
got one. Or I got two. I need one more medal, and then I unlock the final level. I think that'll probably be a good place to end, because that way we can show all, or at least most of the batches in the game. So we'll do this. We'll just show what the final batch is, and then we will call it, I think.
All right.
I like how this level has the duct tape on that board there. Oh, come on. Oh, no. Here. Boom. Oh, and there's I just noticed the heads in the background there.
Yeah, it's sort of like Mount Henk more.
Let's see.
If you just want to grab a medal, you might also just start like one of the levels in the earlier stage that you haven't done yet. Oh well, I see you're actually doing quite well now. So just in case, because there's going to be a very tricky half pipe later on in this level.
I have a feel. Oh, yeah. All right, let's load up that one quickly, just so that we can get some progress instead of me just hanging around and failing too much. I think we could probably do. I did all those. Do I want to do more? Well, let's try the wall trick. This will be a good way to see if I've improved at all compared
Hope
to.
so. I sure hope so.
Let's see.
I think you should be able to do the gold medal on this one.
Come on. Oh. Again, it's also just trying to remember all the little tricks that you have to do in the level. There you go. That's a lot better. Come on.
There you go.
Come on.
Oh, so close.
Oh,
So close. Okay, that's super close.
Damn that ghost. Alright, come on, we can do this. Oh. Okay, that's better. Again, it's all about these little subtle things you're doing differently that's affecting your momentum, which is affecting your speed.
Yeah.
I think I saw one mistake I did. I didn't slide into that loop. And that's how he was getting ahead of me there. And again, it's like these little slight course corrections that you have to make. And it doesn't seem like a big deal. But again, like in that first example with the ghost sliding up, or he made the jump up the loop-de-loop, that was just enough to alter his trajectory to make it.
Yeah, it can make like a world of difference in the end.
And it's just these little slight things, again, that you're seeing.
Nice, nice.
It doesn't seem like you're doing a whole lot different, but it's like a little half second there, a little millisecond there, and it all adds up in terms of your velocity.
And also, like, when you have a certain velocity, you might be able to do one part faster, and then because you do that part faster, you have enough speed to do another part faster, so you can, like, it really builds up. So you might want to start the first level, then you can see, like, a little bit of the storyline.
Up there goes the island.
Yeah, this guy has to blow up everything.
Up in a golden head.
Allow me to break the ice.
Kentucky. And this is all taking place in the kid's bedroom, right? Or have we left that by now?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, okay, so you missed that sort of earlier on cutscene that basically shows how the whole kid's room gets blown up. So yeah, this is the final stage of the game. So I'm guessing this level will take you some time to complete. So we might have to call it like.
Yeah, let's just try this one time. Okay, yeah, because again, we could spend like 30, 40 minutes on this without too much. Let's see, was there anything I unlocked in terms of the heroes? We got Henk, Betsy, Neil. Oh yeah, I unlocked Warrior. I think I unlocked Kentucky from beating it in early access too.
There's also so unfortunately you didn't have the Cedar skin, but yeah, you can unlock him as well. He's sort of like a skater guy, like a surf dude.
I think he was there. That's Jungle. There you go.
Yeah,
he shows up
then you have to do all the levels first. So I guess that's like that'll take too much time. But
yeah,
I mean,
yep.
It's again, it's the same. It's just you know, it's just an outfit, or like it's just a skin. So.
Now, one thing I remember I was seeing during Early Access, you had like holiday-related skins for some of the characters. I know here's Christmas Hang. I think there's a Halloween one as well. Are you guys going to be running that like seasonally as well?
Well, we got a couple of ideas and plans on that. I mean, I think it would be fun to, you know, be able to get the Halloween and the winter skins again this year. So we'll probably get back into that as well. And we got a couple ideas of maybe some other like holiday related skins. But again, it should all be just like sort of good fun, and like we don't want there to be too much about it. It's just like, oh yeah, we got a nice little skin. I mean, it's not much effort for us to make a new skin, so we're just like, oh, it might be fun to have a little skin as well, here and there.
Cool. I guess my last question then for right now is, obviously Ash and Hank is done. You guys are still recovering from early access and all that. Are you planning on? I'm sorry. Do you already have an idea what the next game's going to be from RageSquid?
No, we have no idea. People keep asking this all the time, and I always say, like, we have no clue. We first want to wrap this up completely, and that's when we're gonna sort of like slowly start coming up with new ideas. But I have no idea yet.
That's the question I gotta ask all the indie developers I have on for either these live streams or these podcasts. You know, what are you doing next? Because we do see from a lot of developers, some of them have like their projects like, you know, backlog. They'll say, okay, we're done this now. We've already got Project 2, Project 3 done. And then there are developers like, you know, we finished it. You know, we're taking a break for the next month or two. We'll get back to you in a little bit.
Yeah, we need a break, definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, one other question. This is just a general interview question. I know we asked this on the podcast, but considering that this is the live stream, in case people didn't listen to that, what were your thoughts on developing it early access? I've spoken to a lot of other developers after our podcast who had different approaches and philosophies towards early access as a development model. I know during the interview you talked about how you had to change the update cycle just to make it easier on you guys. But now that everything is all said and done, how did you find early access overall, and do you think you're going to return to it for subsequent games?
So I think I also, like what I'm gonna tell now, I think I also covered that earlier in the interview, but you know, I really like the early access part, especially the part where people already play your game and they already give you feedback and people are already enjoying what you make, though it's not done yet. But I'm not too sure about the whole, I mean, you make a promise to these people, so you have to keep up with your promise. So, I would love to sort of do some sort of beta program earlier on. But I'm not sure if I would want to do early access again with the whole sort of paid thing and the fact that you actually have customers that you need to, you know, work with. So I might even just prefer some sort of closed or open beta program rather than doing early access again. But I can't tell much about that now. Like, we'll have to see if that goes for any potential next games. But I'm definitely a big fan of having people play your game early.
Yeah, especially with a very action or skill-based game like Action Hank, where again this whole, like, the whole general gameplay philosophy is minute little differences. Every little change you make, every little, instead of doing a long jump, you do a short jump, or you jump into a loop or whatever, all these things add up to micro adjustments. And again, that can be a huge deal in terms of learning the game or getting the playtester's experience, because as we talked about, just being able to play this game on your own, you really do build that bias because you already know everything. And as you said earlier, Roll, it can be very difficult to sort of rein yourself in when you're trying to do the bronze level challenges and trying to scale yourself back. So having all this feedback can really help in terms of improving the game, and that's something we've heard from a lot of developers, because you can catch things when you have, you know, 20, 30,000 eyes looking at it compared to when it's just your small team looking at it.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, that's definitely true. Absolutely.
All right. I think with that, I'm trying to think if there's any other questions or anything we miss. We talked about
we covered most of the game in terms of content and features. So So I think it's been very like clear.
Okay. I think with that we are about set. I know we are of course still streaming this live. For those of you in chat, as we're saying our goodbye right now, if you have any final questions you want to ask either myself or Roll, feel free to mention it right now. Other than that, I think we will officially start to wrap things up. Let's see, anything else while we're waiting to see if we get any questions coming in? I think I am about out. Oh, I guess here's just a quick little fun one. Do you think you guys will add any more any more metal variants, like, you know, a super rainbow or a Quartzoid metal at some point?
I guess you could just do like Spawn Ghost Quartzoid. That would be
yeah. Alright. I think we are good then. Alright, I think that is it. So, excuse me, I'm going to grab a quick drink before I finish my little speech. Okay. So, we're going to wrap up this live play. Roll, again, it was a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully I didn't embarrass myself too much playing Action Hank for the last, what are we up to? About a little over an hour and a half.
Yeah, well, great. No, I definitely enjoyed being here. It's been fun, like, going through the game and explaining everything, and I think you did quite well, actually. I mean, you've been getting a lot of good medals, so even gold medals later on. So
yeah. So
I think I think you should definitely have a go at the harder medals of the game, like the city badge. I'm curious as to whether you will like them or not.
Yeah, maybe I should do another Twitch stream of actually just showing those later levels. Hopefully, Quartzoid won't come in to make fun of my skill or spawn his ghost just to show how much better.
Yeah, he might.
Alright, and Roll, again, it was a pleasure. Hopefully we can do this again, either another live stream at some point, or just have you back on for a regular podcast on Game Wisdom.
Yeah, sure. Well, sounds good.
Alright, so with that said, we're going to wrap up this play. Again, I'd like to thank Roll and RageSquid for making this game and for coming on to talk for the last hour and a half. For those of you watching this live on Twitch, thanks so much for tuning in. And for those of you watching this record on YouTube, if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more, please like and subscribe to the channel. It'll help me out a lot. For everyone watching this, please check out game-wisdom.com for posts and podcasts relating to game design and the industry, as well as our interview that I had with Roll a few months ago, talking about RageSquid and Action Hank while it was in early access. And please check out our Patreon campaign to secure some very much needed monthly funding for the site and everything that I do, just to help me pay the bills while putting out this great content. You can find me on Patreon under Josh Beiser or Game-Wisdom or just Game Wisdom. Any contribution will help tremendously. And last message for the YouTube crowd, if you like to watch these plays live and ask questions, or even try to submit a ghost for a Twitch stream, you can catch me live streaming under my channel of GW Beiser. Outside of these special live events, I'm usually streaming every night around 10 or so Eastern Standard Time. So, with that, we're going to wrap things up. Roll, if you wouldn't mind just hanging on Skype for like a few minutes afterwards. I just have a few questions to ask you there. But for those of you watching this live, again, thanks so much for tuning in. And hopefully we'll be able to do this again real soon. Take care, everybody. Oh, I guess just to wrap things up, Roll, do you have any final things you'd like to say about the game to the fans or anything in general?
Well, thanks for playing, I guess. Anyone who plays it, thanks so much.
Alright, with that, we're going to end things here. So, have a great rest of the day, and talk to you guys real soon. Take care.
Yeah.
Okay.